Hello there, my name is Bruce Rain from Breakers Creations, and thank you very much for joining me on this live stream on this lovely day. Hello to anyone who might be new here, it might be the first time you're seeing one of my live streams. Shenanigans, that's what it's all about, shenanigans. I'm going to just quickly go and have a look at who has joined. I've got now look, here we go. This one doesn't go all the way back, so let me just go back to here. Oh no, that's as far back as it goes. Okay, so hello to Brian Wickland, Francois Revol. Justin Morgan is here. Who else have we got? We got John Mortz, Jeremy Belanos, Retro Techie. Joe is here. Hello, Joe. And Steve is here. Hello, Steve. Mystery Margot. Jay is here. Snoozing. Joe Williams. SadMac356. Hello. Am I missing? DJ Craze. Apple's Anonymous. And John Powell. Dana is here. Hello, Dana. And Jack68K, Brand 5184, Chris FPV. Trina is here. Hello, Trina. Plazy Williams. I apologise if I mispronounce anything. It's just me. It's not you. It's me. Okay, so let me just put this on so I can actually see what I'm doing here. I'm going to be getting into this one fairly quickly. I've got a limited amount of time today, and I do have an absolute shocker of a board here. So this is a Macintosh SE 30. Anyone who is not sort of familiar with what it is that I do essentially restorations of vintage computers, and this is the Macintosh SE 30, which is a very desirable vintage computer, I have to say. A lot of people really like to have these, and I think the main reason for that is that they were really the most sort of powerful in a compact Mac case. They were effectively, I think they were like a 2CX or a 2X compacted down onto a little board that would fit into a compact Macintosh. And so with your little black and white screen, you actually had quite a bit of power. For the time, you could upgrade it up to 128 megabytes of RAM, and it was using a 16 megahertz 68030 CPU. So we'll just jump across on view here to have a look at the board. Sorry, my desk is just ridiculously messy today. I mean, more than usual. I was spending some time doing some repairs yesterday on a piece of consumer electronics, something for the kitchen. And so the fuse blew, so I bought a replacement fuse, obviously. And I also noticed that a resistor was looking really, really ugly. So I bought a replacement resistor and I replaced those two items, and of course the fuse immediately blew. Not surprising. So I then okay, I'm gonna have to go in and do a little bit more delving. So I found a MOSFET that was blown, I found 3 diodes that were blown, I replaced all of these things, and it's still just constantly blowing fuses. So it's like, how far down this rabbit hole do I wanna go? I mean, how much time should I invest in this before I consider it cheaper for me to go and buy a new one? As much as possible, I do like to try and keep things going because it's just good for keeping things out of landfill and all that sort of stuff. You're talking about an item here where 95% of it is fine. It's just one small little bit of electronics inside which is gone. And you know, it's just that question of, do I keep going? Do I keep going in and doing the diagnostics? The problem seemed to only be on the primary side of the power supply. I'll probably keep going because I just can't help myself. Quick reminder, anyone who's here to
smash that like button.
Whee! So I better just check this. Oh, Charlie is here. Hello, Charlie. It's going well, thank you. 31 degrees C here. Yeah, it's about 28 here where I am at the moment. I've got the air conditioner going, so if you hear any of that sort of noise in the background, that's what it is. A bit of blowy air conditioner-y, noisy stuff. And it's steamy too. It's just been so humid here lately. It's kind of quite uncomfortable. If you go out for a walk or something like that, the sweat just sits on you. It's just really uncomfortable. Garth Beagle, hello. Always keep going like the Quadra 840 AV. Will Steve ever give up? Quick mention to Steve, who was live streaming this morning. He started live streaming while I was still asleep, so I didn't really get to see it. Probably go back and have a look, and it's all part of the PowerPC challenge for those who aren't aware of that. Check out Tinker Different. Someone wants to stick a link in there to the thread on the PowerPC challenge. It is basically a challenge where we challenge people to see how much of your day-to-day computing you can do using an old PowerPC computer. And it's a lot of fun. It's meant to be fun. It's And I've been finding I've been able to do quite a few things. The times when the PowerPC challenge gets put to one side is when I'm really, really busy. When, you know, when I wake up in the morning, I know I'm just going to be run off my feet every minute of the day. Those days I generally don't have much time to play around on it. But when I'm a bit more relaxed, I get out the old G4 12-inch laptop and have a little bit of fun with that. So, yeah. Another little shout out to Sean from Action Retro, who's not here yet. I'm assuming he will arrive at some stage, who released a video today, tonight, depending on where you are in the world. And he is also getting into the PowerPC challenge. And his latest video is where he's featuring an iMac, has a little cameo from me in it, so a little spoiler alert there. And he asked me to record this thing, and he put it in there, and he made it even funnier than I was expecting it to be. So go in and have a look at that if you get a chance. So that's Action Retro, his latest video. And of course I also have to mention a good friend Dan from Canadian Computer Collector, who just released a video. I haven't had a chance to look at it yet. And last of all, good old Jay from the House of Moth. He released a, he's not that old, he released a video on Open Core Legacy Patcher. Very, very useful actually. I used that video last night. I had my little iPad next to me as I installed Open Core and OS 10 Monterey on a 2013, I think, iMac, which of course is not meant to run Monterey, but it just runs it beautifully with the Open Core Legacy Patcher, and so easy, and it's flawless. There's no hiccups or problems or anything. It just runs flawlessly, and so far Monterey is pretty zippy, so I'm reasonably impressed. It's the first time I've ever run anything newer than a variation of OS 10. So I've never run OS 11. I think this is 12, isn't it? I don't know. I can't remember. Anyhow. Oh, okay, Mike. Hello, Mike. I didn't say hello to you. Mike is here. Yeah, so I'm pleased you got that sorted then. That's excellent. All right, so we have all got some temperatures to discuss here. There's clearly cold in your part, other people's part of the world. So it's not here. It's the biggest problem we have here. It just keeps raining. So that's the thing that's frustrating me the most. Right, so as I did say before, we're going to get right into this, and then I proceeded to not get right into it. This is the Macintosh SE 30, and there's some real ugliness going on around here. Up here, these two here, these are the serial chip controllers. So they're your two serial ports there, two RS-232 serial ports. I think they're RS-232. Correct me if I'm wrong. And these are the two little controller chips, and in particular this one here's got some real ugliness around it, so I wouldn't be at all surprised if the serial ports don't work. I'm not going to fire this up and try it. The damage is too great. I would be risking, I think, doing further damage, so I'm just going to go in and recap it without testing it. Oh, I've got a super chat here. William D. Wing. There we go. Thank you very much, William D, and it's much appreciated. Keep up the good work. I will do my best. I will definitely do my best. I'm trying very hard to keep the content rolling at the moment because I stagnated a little bit there, and I had a few big long gaps, and I'm sort of like trying to make sure that even if my live streams are short live streams, I get them out there. And of course I'm working on a fair bit of pre-recorded content too. I'll be making an announcement in the coming days, hopefully not too far away, about the giveaway that I'm doing. I am giving away three brand new Kaiweets KM601 multimeters. So the information on that giveaway will be coming soon. The information will be in a video. In order to enter, you need to be a subscriber of the channel, and you do need to provide an answer to a question that will be posed. So I will pose that question in the video. And once you're entered, there will be a draw, and I think it'll be probably about 3 or 4 weeks time, something like that. And then I will be pulling 3 names randomly out of the hat, and those 3 people will get a free Kaiweets KM601 multimeter. So links in the description about this multimeter. So that, yeah, so there have actually been tsunami warnings here, even as far south as we are here in Sydney. The surf is apparently nasty, but it's not really tsunami type situation. So yes, obviously you know, shout out to all the people that are affected, in particular people in Tonga. You know, unfortunately, the people in the Pacific Islands are always the first to cop it with this sort of stuff. And I hope, yeah, I hope things aren't too bad. Obviously, news is still sort of filtering through. I haven't seen that much. I've seen some pictures, satellite photos of the explosion. It's quite spectacular. It's amazing. So. Let's just see if I miss anything here. It was 70 here in Canada, but we did have a tsunami. Okay, so it got to you all the way there. Wow, that's amazing. RS422. Yeah, I had a sneaking suspicion it was a different sort of RS. Now, where are we? Okay. Just so you know, Garth, I'm not really sure what 70 is. But I know it's a Fahrenheit temperature. I just couldn't tell you if it's hot or cold. Right. All right. Okay. Well, I think we can get onto this now. So I'm going to go back to the top view, and I will just thank William again. Thank you, William, and I'll just close this out there. Okay, so anyhow, this is how the computer was supplied to me. It's got some RAM in it, it's got ROM installed, and it's got the little battery cover. I always make note of these things to make sure that when I send them back to the customer, they get back what they sent me. So I'm just going to go in here and go to my little repair thing and find out what the job number is for this. Now, just a little mention to anyone who might be watching this who has boards with me at the moment. Just always worth mentioning that I don't live stream every board. I live stream things that I think are going to be interesting, that I think are potentially going to demonstrate something of value, maybe processes that I use or methods that I use for fixing things. So that's why I've chosen this board. Because I'm working on this board doesn't mean that your board isn't getting worked on. I do a lot of work on the boards while I'm not live streaming, mainly because I get so much more done when I'm not live streaming. But I do try and pick ones where it's like, well, it's either a computer that people like, and generally people kind of like the SE30. And also, as I say, this one's got some damage, which I think it'll be a bit of fun to repair. I'm donning some gloves today. I don't usually do that. I mean to every time, but I just forget to. But I do actually like to work with the gloves on because it saves me from getting all that sticky goo all over my hands. And I'm not a big fan of sticky fingers. I'd say the idea of torture for me is having like sticky fingers and nothing to wash it off with. That for me is just like the worst possible thing. Can't stand it. This is why if I have things like, I don't know, like chicken wings or something like that I'm going to eat, I like to eat them at home. So that, you know, I get up and wash my hands like 3 times while I'm eating. All right, so this is job number 149. We're going to take out these very carefully. These have plastic on they, and so we don't want to break the plastic. There are solutions if you do break them, but or certainly workarounds. What is that? Oh, I know what that is. I'm cleaning up a PowerBook 100, though its screen is bonked. Is it bonked or balked? Bonked, okay. Is that, just a quick question, Garth, is that, is the screen delaminated or is it just, you know, not working properly? Because screen delamination on old laptops is becoming a really big problem. A couple of things worth mentioning about screen delamination. Essentially what it is, it's a chemical reaction that all LCD screens have a thing called a polarizer on them, and that's what helps kind of funnel the polarizers direct light. They direct light in a single direction. And that's what helps you see the liquid crystal on a liquid crystal display. And the adhesive used to stick the polarizer onto the screen can over time create a chemical reaction, and then it just makes all these really weird. It looks like the screen's been scratched. It looks like kind of like, oftentimes it looks like, you know, it was like Wolverine's computer, and he's just gone. The delamination is a big problem, but there are ways you can get around it or prevent it. Once it's already happened, the only way of fixing it is to actually peel off that polarizer and stick a new one on, and that is not a job you want to do in a hurry, that's for sure. But if you have one and you're worried about delamination, there are a couple of things. First of all, it is better to have them stored dry than humid. So if you've got humidity, if humidity is an issue where you're storing on computers, you're more likely to end up with delamination. The other is that you are more likely to end up with delamination if the computer is stored closed. So if, I'm not saying you have to go around storing them all open because they're a little bit hard to do, but I'm just letting you know that if the thing is open, you're less likely to get that delamination chemical reaction. And another thing you can do is, if you're storing them, get a thin piece of cardboard and slip them between the keyboard and the screen when you close them. Being careful that it's not a big, thick piece of cardboard that might make the computer crack, but apparently the cardboard will help absorb some of the moisture and is less likely to cause the delamination. So they're just a few little tips and pointers trying to make sure your computers don't delaminate. So, I had an old 190 with major hinge breakage. It ran a bit, I put it away, and the next day noticed the battery very lightly hissing, emitting gas. Yeah, well, that could well be something to make it even worse. Oh, here comes a super chat for Garth. Boo. Beep. Thank you. You're most welcome. I do hope that it helps. As I say, it doesn't do anything about screens are already delaminated. It's a nightmare, and it's awful to see. You know, I was at a place just recently where a guy had a bunch of old Macs, and I was there to buy one of them, but I was just there and identifying them all, going, oh, you've got a boop, and you've got a boop, and you've got a boop, and I just saw over in the corner a 540, a PowerBook 540, and of course the 540 is a lovely little Mac, beautifully designed little machine, 68040 CPU. You know, you can have a really great game of a bit of like Civilization or something on that. Lovely colour screen, really nice 540C. And because I saw it over there, I said, oh, 540C, and then he pulled it out, opened it up, screen delamination. It looked awful. And it's like, ugh, darn it. Oh, darn. Right, now, yeah, so, yeah, look, you're probably right there, Dana. There is most probably a link to gases coming out of the battery causing the delamination. That would figure for me, totally. Okay. 540C back in the mid-90s from Guy at the main Apple campus the first time I was on it. Excellent. Right. Okay, just catching up on the chat here. All right, so we've taken all of the bits and pieces off. Now we are going to have to remove the caps, and we'll get this under the microscope. We'll see just how bad things are. As I say, I can see blackening of the traces here that are going to need to be repaired, and we'll just see how bad that is over the rest of the computer. I should mention that this board was actually going to get sent to someone else to recap because I'm so busy. But the person who was going to recap it looked at it and said, oh, I think this one could be a problem. And so the person then contacted me and sort of said, look, I know you're busy, but can I send this board to you? Because, you know, well, no, he didn't do that. He tricked me. He said, what do you think of this board? I said, it's not too bad. He said, can I send it to you? Because that's not what the other guy said. So anyhow, shout out to Max. This is his board. Max is one of my regular customers. In actual fact, last week I was recapping an LC2 and that was his as well. So yeah, he's as I say, he's one of my regulars. He's contributing to my Christmas fund. So all right. So here's some interesting stuff that we can see straight off the bat. That is a shocker that's got to come off. This is the serial port controller, and we may end up even having to replace that because there's some nasty blackening there. But what I really like is this. I don't know if you can see this here. I can see it because my microscope is stereoscopic, which means that I can actually see depth when I look through it, so I can see, you know, things whether they're close to me or far away. This trace here, just above the tweezers, the black one there, it is actually lifted up off the board. So Won't that be nice to fix? Yes. Dear. Look at it. Look at it. Look at it. That what's peeling off there is just mask. It's not actually the trace. But as you can see, there's some significant blackening going on here. This is definitely going to want quality time in the ultrasonic cleaner for a little bit of cavitation cleaning. Okay. Oops, look, this happens to me sometimes where it stops scrolling the chat. Oh, Max is here. Hello, Max. So Max, this is Max's board that I'm working on at the moment, and as I say, it was just that whole, you know, how bad do you think this is? Well, we'll see. Is that corroded on the top of the cap? Yes, it is. It is absolutely corroded on the top of the cap. Beautiful, isn't it? Well, let's get the caps off without further ado, or don't. Over here we have sound chips, stereo left and right sound chips there. Sound chip number 1, sound chip number 2, labelled with Sony. Because they live right here in this bad neighbourhood of capacitors, it's very common for the first sign of a computer needing recapping is that they start having sound problems. And the very first SE30 that I got, which I got from Horst, who is in the chat often sometimes, many moons ago, when I got it from him, it had no sound. And it was because of the caps. And it was my very first recap computer. Many people in the chat who may watch my stuff will have heard that story before. But it was the very first thing I ever recapped. Sorry, I'm going to loosen this up a bit. I move the end of the microscope with my nose, and if it's done up too tight, I go to move it, it hurts my nose. Okay, there's a little 1 microfarad 50 volt capacitor. I should actually mention there are 11 surface mount electrolytic capacitors on the SE30, and they will all need to be changed. I think from memory, 1 microfarad 50 volt and all the rest are 47s. That sort of sounds about right to me. There's a real stale stink about this. Sometimes they get that really oily kind of fishy smell, but this one's got more of a stale, crunchy stank about it. It's, woo! Jesus. There went one. Gets the heart started. They do that sometimes. So basically what happens with them, they're sealed up, and as they heat up inside, there's liquid inside, it expands, and if the seals are really good, they just pop in one go. Kai is here. Hello, Kai. I didn't say hello. Oh, see, you've only just turned up. So welcome. Thank you for joining. Kai, for folks who may not know who Kai is the person we have to thank for the Macintosh Classic Reloaded and the Macintosh SE Reloaded projects. And he is an incredibly clever person, and he's very handy to have around when you're working on stuff and when you get stuck on things. Incredible wealth of knowledge. So welcome to the stream. Have not been to a live stream in a while. Yes, I know. I do understand that I live stream at a pretty piss poor time for Kai, because Kai is in the UK, and well, we are, I think at the moment, 11 hours ahead. So which would make it, what, 1 in the morning, something like that? No, hang on, that's not right. 12. Yeah, hang on. Is that 1 in the morning? 1:25, something like that? Around about that time. So it's not necessarily the best live streaming time. 1:25. Okay, I was right. Where are we? My first machine I recapped was an SE30. I recently pulled the logic board out and realised I've gotten sloppier and sloppier with my recap jobs over the years. That's not how it's meant to work. You're meant to get better. You're meant to get more refined as you go. I know when I pulled out the SE30, because as I say, the SE30 was the first thing I ever recapped, and when I pulled it out a couple of years later, looked at it and went, oh my goodness, I better fix this. I don't want anyone else to see it. I went in and recapped it. Who was I talking to? I don't think I said hello to Michael Junot. I apologise if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. in my last live stream I was talking about welding, getting into welding, because I'd like to get into welding and learn a little bit about it. And someone recommended that I get into gasless MIG, or where you have a flux core wire that you use. So I've been investigating that, and I can get hold of a kit with pretty much everything. Comes with the welder, gloves, helmet, few consumable items. I'm not sure if it comes with a wire, but that's okay. I mean, wire's just something you have to buy anyway. And it was, I think, about 400 Australian dollars. So I'm probably going to go down that path, I would think. There is so much ugliness on this board. This is actually one of those boards that it probably makes sense to ultrasonically clean it before working on it. People often ask me, why don't you clean them first? And I usually, the answer to that is usually because I make a lot of mess while I'm doing the recapping, and so I just clean the whole thing in one go. But when you've got this sort of damage, it's sometimes helpful to actually get all that crust off. Makes it easier to see where the damage is, but we'll see. SE30 was also my first recap. Well, you know why it's a lot of people's first recap? It was because it was one of the really early and very popular and collectible computers that started having problems with the surface mount electrolytic caps. Earlier compact Macs didn't use surface mount electrolytic. So if we're talking about the 128K, 512K Plus, SE, they didn't use surface mount electrolytic caps. So SE30 was the first in the compact Mac shape that had surface mount electrolytic caps. So it was kind of, yes, there are other computers that needed to be recapped, like the Mac 2, the 2X, 2CI, 2CX and all that. But I think in terms of the collectible compact Macs, the SE30 was the first to actually start having this problem. Rotate the UC8 chip and clip off pin 7. It then will run open core. Hello, Jay. So another quick mention, Jay, if you want to drop the link into the video, into the chat here, Jay has created this video on the open core legacy patcher of interest to people who are wanting to put operating systems that wouldn't natively run on their computer. So if you've got a slightly older Mac, in the instance of what I just did last night, and incredibly pleased with the end result. What I did last night was I've got a 2013 quad-core i5, I think, iMac. So, and Catalina is the most recent operating system it will officially run from Apple. And using Open Core Legacy Patcher, I got Monterey on there, and it's quite zippy. I was very pleased with the end result. So, and it was quite good, because what I did is I just had Jay's video running on the iMac there, and the pace was perfect. So I was able to kind of do this stuff while he was saying it. I didn't really have to pause it. I only had to pause it during the long installs. Most of the time I was able to just sort of keep up with the video, so it was actually perfect. Excellent, great, thank you for putting that in there, Jay. So if anyone is wanting to go down that path, you will be amazed how easy it is. It is really, really straightforward. Just follow a few steps and then you're done. It's great. Can I load on a late 2012 iMac? I would say the answer to that is almost definitely yes, but double check, have a look on the video, or have a look on the link to the Open Core Legacy Patcher. It lists all of the computers, but I mean, Jay installed it on a 2011 Mac Mini. So, I would think a 2012 iMac would probably be fine. Along here, we have this little row of U chips. So I say U because they're all labeled with a U. There's UA8, no, sorry. Is it U8? Yeah, so U8. So there's UA8, UB8, UC8, UD8, UE8, UF8, and UG8. So all of these U8, UX8 chips here, they often end up with problems because of the capacitor leakage from above coming down onto these. As you can see, we've got a lot of crustiness here. But having said that, I'm not sure that any of these are a problem, but we will certainly find out. Right, so we've lifted off those. Let's get rid of these caps. These caps are right next to the plastic connector for the main umbilical, the power supply and the video output. which is the main sort of plastic connector in the middle, and so I like to provide ample protection for this connector so that I don't melt it when I hit it with the hot air station. So I've got a little bit of Kapton tape that I've put there, and then I've got my little metal heat shield there. And then we're going to lift these caps off, and we'll once again just see how bad things are underneath. So I'm just reading some of the chat here, do apologise. If I'm missing things, I'm sorry. What did you miss, Francois? You missed everything. No, you didn't really. Just more of my rambles. Stay down, you thing. So this thing's rising up, and I don't want it to rise up because then it's not an effective heat shield. So maybe if I just put it in there like that, and it'll just hold itself up. There we go. That's nice. Alright, so there are 3 more 47 microfarad 16 volt caps. I think, are these the ones where the computer will actually run without them on? I'm not sure. There are a few caps on these where the computer will still run even if the caps aren't on there, because they're just doing some sort of filtration. That's an ugly one. Now, everyone, a lot of people have their own opinions about capacitor removal. Some talk about the snip off the top and then remove the desolder the bottom, or the twist and pull method, all those sorts of things. Can I tell you that you would not, I would never anyway, but you would not want to use a twist and pull method on this board. You are virtually guaranteed to tear pads off, when you look at the state of this. When you're working on a vintage board like this, it's very common to see green. It depends what sort of green. You want to see this sort of green, this dark green. You don't want to see this light green up here in the corner. That is not a green you want to see. And a tip for anyone who might be getting into recapping, they might be looking at this as thinking, oh, I'm going to try my own recapping. Just keep in mind that you have to get the pads clean before you put new ones on. So we'll be doing that in a minute. It's really, really important. It's one of the most important parts of recapping. Clean. It's got to be clean. Solder does not like sticking to stuff that is dirty. Simple as that. When someone says, why can't I get solder to stick to this thing? The answer is generally because you've either got your heat wrong, you don't have enough flux, or it's dirty. Simples. I'm just looking for another heat shield. I know I have some, but I just can't find them. At least I found my nice big one. Some days I can't find any. Maybe we'll use some Kapton tape. Kapton tape! Just Dremel them down. Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? Right, so just want to try and create some protection. I need more heat shields. Come on, guys. Come on. Come on. This is why it takes me so long to recap, because I can't find what I'm looking for. In the words of Bono. Ah, found one. Everyone can relax. Stop looking. It's all good. So I'm going to try and get this cap off without melting everything. Come on, Kai, you can do it. You can do it. Now, during the Steve from Mac84, during his stream from earlier today, he made mention that he would be doing, I think, some solar-y, tinkery stuff today. So is that the case, Steve? Are you tinkering on something while you're watching this live stream? Or has he dashed off? He might have dashed off already. We do that sometimes. When you're watching someone else do a bit of tinkering, you start tinkering yourself. Have a little bit of company in the background. All right, let's see if I can get this out without melting anything. Don't. Come on. So the cap's popped. It's still not coming off. There we go. That one was not fun. Well, apologies to anyone who has seen some of my 3D printed creations and is wondering where they can get hold of them. Eventually they'll be on Thingiverse, but I just haven't had a chance to do any of that yet. This is the later version of the SE30 board, by the way. There are a couple of versions of SE30 board. There's one version where it has a socketed CPU. So in other words, there is a socket and a CPU sitting in the socket. And then you have the later version of the board, which is what we have here, where the CPU is actually just soldered directly to the board. The socketed chip has kind of like that gold square on the top of it. The unsocketed one is just black like this. So I'll just change views very quickly. I've finished removing all these caps, so as you can see, it's got that black there. That one's the soldered one. The other big difference is that on the earlier version of the board, this little capacitor here lives down here, somewhere about there-ish, there. I think it's about there. So there's a slight variation in the position of that capacitor. So, and that, and things, and stuff. All right, so now we've got a heckload of cleaning to do. Michael's Workshop, hello. Socket to me, haha, boom boom. I believe Steve was contemplating building some blue SCSI DB25s. Yes, that does ring a bell. Tinkering is highly addictive. Hello, Pedro147. Have I said hello to you? If not, apologies. Daniel Hanson, I don't think I've said hello to you. Got lucky, my personal SE30 was a socketed CPU, but with a later board revision. Interesting, interesting. All right, so now we've got to go in and start cleaning. So this is where the fun really starts. I'm going to start up in this region. Oh, actually, I've got to remove this cap here. The way I do that is I just snip and leave the pins, and then I just pull the pins out one at a time using a soldering iron. Find that the best way. One of the ways you could remove it is by using these cool little things, soldering needles. I'll probably do a video on these at some stage. I was introduced to these by Kai. Kai sent me a link on soldering needles. I'm still working on finding the most suitable purpose for them. I tried using them the other day for desoldering a RAM socket, and it seemed to go quite well, except it was still soldered on there, rock solid, after I'd gone in and needled all the pins. But, you know, anything new like that, or new to me anyway, I've got to figure out the best way of doing it, and then I'll show you guys. I'm not ready to show you guys yet. The funny thing is that so many times when I do my soldering videos and then people go in and say, "You're doing it wrong. You should do it like this." And of course, my general reply is that I've already tried it like that and I prefer my way. It's not the right way, it's the way I prefer. Try different things. Oops, fume extractor. There we go. Take all those nasty fumes away. So we've got to clean these pads up. I am really worried that some of these pads are actually going to fall off, which would be normal given how bad they are. But I'm basically using flux, I'm using heat, I'm using solder, fresh solder, and I'm using a bit of rubbing. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to make it so that each of these pins ends up, or each of these pads ends up like a nice little symmetrical kind of shape where we can clearly see that the whole pad is accepting solder. So just going to do all those, and then we will get rid of all that solder using some solder wick. Oopsie daisy, helps if you're showing the microscope. Thank you for letting me know, Dana. Oopsie doopsie doopsie. Best to think of soldering as more of an art form. And that way you can sort of say, well, you know, art varies for different people, doesn't it? So, need a super cut of Bruce's best pad cleanings. Yes, well, this one will probably be up there, I tell you. So it's funny. I find this kind of one of the quite tedious, repetitious parts of the process. It's very rewarding. It's quite satisfying when you get these things looking good. But I have had several people in the chat say, "Oh, I really love watching the cleaning bit." It's like, oh, okay, I'll keep doing it on screen then. So just cleaning these up. Need to make sure that we get rid of all the sort of gunky stuff, and we are just left with a nice rectangular shiny thing with solder on it, and then we'll be all ready for sticking new ones on. But we of course do have quite a bit of damage control to do in this area in particular. So I generally start here with these four because it's usually where most of the damage is. So get all the hard stuff out of the way first. Don't ask me why I do it that way. I've always been like that. I've always been someone who does the hardest job first and then the easy ones later. And it's funny because it's sometimes it's good to do that. Other times it's bad. If you're trying to show someone you're making progress, if they give you 10 jobs to do and you do the hardest one first and they come back and say, "How's it going?" and you go, "Well, I'm still working on that one," you know, people can often end up getting quite nervous about it. Whereas if you do all the easy ones first, you can come back and you can say, "Oh, okay, well, I've done almost everything. I've just got one more task to do." And they go, "Oh, excellent, great progress." Yeah, I don't do it that way. I just don't. So as you can see, there's blackening along this trace the whole way. What we need to do is we need to get rid of that blackening because that is ultimately corrosion. It will get worse. We need to get rid of the blackening. We need to expose the copper, get rid of all the gunk off it, and then we can put solder on it. So tin it and then coat it and help to protect it for future generations to enjoy. Now this is the really scary part because this is where the trace has been damaged, and I worry that this scraping is actually going to make it. Was it this one? No, it wasn't this one. It was the next one up. Next two up. Scrapey, scrapey, scrapey. Scrapey, scrapey, scrapey. This is really common, by the way, what I'm doing here at the moment. These traces that I'm actually paying attention to at the moment, it is really, really common for these ones to end up looking like this. I'm not actually doing anything here which is outside of the norm. Yeah, it does look ouch, and it is going to come off, and we're going to have to clean up the pads under it because it looks awful. So I just need to get some iso alcohol. I'm almost out. So excuse me just a moment. Where is it? Is that it? That's it. So this is what I use. It is a 99.997. I'm not sure why they're not able to just say 100%, but it's close enough to 100 as far as I can see. And it is, I always keep a pretty decent supply of this on hand. I've got about, what is that? That's about probably 2 litres in there. I've got another 5 there, so I've got about 7 litres here at the moment. Very handy stuff to have. Whoopsie. Careful I don't drop it. Has this been boot tested? No, it has not been boot tested, and I'll tell you why it hasn't. It has some very nasty damage on it. It's even got some signs of some burning. So that to me doesn't really invite sending some power through it. So I'm going to clean it up first. I don't know, Max is in the chat. Max, have you tested this out, just out of curiosity? It would not let me. Oh, okay. Yes, that's unfortunately the the link into Discord. Oh, okay. Well, I wonder why it wouldn't let you put a link in Discord. Anyhow, send me a message on Discord. I can reply to you. Then it might let me. Might let me accept the link. Okay, so there we go. Now I've got our alcohol all ready to go. Alcohol forms azeotrope with water. It's nearly impossible to remove all the water. Yeah, yes, this is correct. And this is actually one of the things I found out about this when I was doing some work for the Australian Boating Association, because they have a test to see whether there is alcohol in, water in fuel, because apparently it's a similar issue with water in fuel. But, okay, so this is the nasty trace here. I think it's this one. Either way, they're coming up all right, so I'm feeling pretty good about it. All these traces that were looking absolutely revolting, we've got copper there. There are no breaks in them. So we'll just clean those up with some solder, and then we'll be good to go. Right. So once I've exposed all the traces like this, oh, LMNO, hello, and welcome to the live stream. I haven't actually chatted to you in a while. I've been seeing some of your posts on Tinker Different and that, but I must actually jump onto Discord and check and see how everything is going with you. So I should actually read what you're saying here as well. I use a pair of hot tweezers for almost all cap removal at this point. Very nice, not worrying. Yeah, I hear you. There are many times where I sort of think to myself, you know what, solder tweezers would be really good for this. The complication I have is that our friends at Hacko, the soldering station that I use doesn't accept the Hacko soldering tweezers. So I'm kind of tempted just to get a cheap pair and test them out, you know, just because you can buy really cheap solder tweezers online. I might just try and get a real cheapie and just see how I go with them. Because I'm not going to buy their really expensive soldering station just so that I can use their solder tweezers. No. I will not be manipulated in thus ways. Okay, helps if the fume extractor is actually pointing somewhere near where the fumes are coming from. All right, so next thing we're going to do, I'm not going to clean any of this yet because we're still making a mess. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to take off the AM26LS right here, because it's really ugly. So I'll get a little bit of flux on it there, just around the edges, hit it with some hot air, and we'll whip him off. Whip it. Yeah, I think there's something wrong with my Asante LC Ethernet adapter. Even after finding a 10100 switch, the green light is not behaving as it should. It's interesting you say that, Justin. I've never had any real issue with Asante Ethernet adapters. They seem to work even on my gigabit hub. There's a guy that sells Farallon ones on eBay. I bought a few from him. I don't know if he still has them, but he had heaps of them. And I bought, I don't know, probably 4 of them, because I thought, well, you know, you can never have too many LC Ethernet adapters. So I bought a few, and those work beautifully. So they're these little Farallon ones. As I say, this guy usually has more than a couple for sale, and they work really well. It's actually one of the fantastic things about all these old LC Macs, whether it be the Color Classic LC, LC2, LC3, LC475, 575, all of those ones all have the same LC PDS slot, processor direct slot, and that can be really good for getting your computer onto the Ethernet network, and potentially even onto the interwebs. Even my Macintosh 2 CI running under System 6 using a new bus Ethernet card, I managed to get that so that I was transferring data off an FTP server. So just cleaning up these pads, cleaning. should probably grab a new chip for this, but I've found these serial chips to be pretty bloody bulletproof. Even after they look like they've been through the wars, you put them on and they still work. What do you think, Kai? Do you think I should replace this chip? Or do you reckon I just put the old one back on? I mean, I will test it. If it doesn't work, I'll put a new one on, but I'm just interested in Kai's opinion on the matter. I've got one stubborn bit of gunge there that's not coming off, so we'll see. Use the chip. Look at that. Have a stack of AAUI dongles somewhere. I should find them. I need to get my Quad 700 on the network, and badly, yes. Well, I've only got probably 3 of them, but it's enough. I'm not the sort of person that gets all my computers out at the one time and wants to network them all. So if I have a dongle that I take off one computer and put it on another computer when I'm working on that. For those who may not even realise what the purpose of an AAUI dongle was, in the early days of Ethernet, there were 3 different types of Ethernet. There was thick Ethernet, there was thin Ethernet, which was coaxial cable, and there was 10 base T Ethernet. And ultimately, the one that won was 10 base T, using, sort of Cat 5 cable sort of stuff, and is still being used today. But there was a time when it wasn't just everyone using 10 base T. And the company that I worked for, we were using coaxial, we were using thin. And we did then change over because thin was terrible. But that's why you had a dongle. What it meant was you had the foundation of the Ethernet framework there in your computer, and then you just decide what method you're going to connect with. Wow, we've got some ugliness here. Use the chip. We've got 2 use the chips. Anyone? Any more? Use them? Clean the chip and get it back on. Yep. It's me. Tom, you're not fooling anyone. All right. I'm just going to clean this up a bit. Using a toothbrush here. I've mentioned this before. It is not the toothbrush I use to brush my teeth with. It is a scungy old toothbrush that I use for getting this stuff. It's quite a soft bristle, so I'm not likely to do any damage. I do have a hard bristle one there as well, but I think soft bristle is the best for this. And how are we all looking there? So you can see one of these pads, this one here, looks particularly bad. And we'll just see if we can get that one looking a bit better. And we've got a little bit of scunge which isn't coming away here as well. Let's scrape that off. If the gentle methods don't remove the gunge, we then have to resort to the rough methods. This pad is pretty knocked around, but it is still here. So we will still use it. So interesting thing about the SE30 board is it's got more layers than a lot of the Mac boards up until this point. This one has obviously a layer on the top, layer on the bottom. It has a ground layer and it has a voltage layer, but it also has some additional data path layers. I think at least 1, possibly 2. So I think it's a 6-layer board from memory. For the SE30 Reloaded board that guy did, whose name escapes me and I apologise, he remade it as a 4-layer board by just putting the traces closer together, I think. I'm pretty sure that's what I was told by Kai. Using modern technology, modern manufacturing, he was able to actually remake the SE30 board as a 4-layer board rather than as a 6-layer board. Right, well, we don't have any trace breaks here. Everything still seems to be connected, so I think we can be happy with that. Yeah, I think it was, is it pronounced Bolle? 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 Boll? I'm not sure, but yes, I think that's who did it. Clever cookie. He's the one that made all those accelerators and stuff, CPU upgrades and things too as well. Right, so this is the chip. I want to clean it up a little bit because it's looking pretty nasty. I'll start off by just giving this a bit of a scrape. Scrapey scrape. See all the black stuff just coming off. We're left with shiny stuff underneath. Pretty good. Oopsie. Uh, 840AV board needs to be remade next. I hate the 840AV board. Absolutely hate it. I like the 840AV, but I hate the board. Right. What I need now is I need my little sanding thingy. I've got one of these things that's used for sanding nails, and I use it for doing a little bit of cleanup on chips like this. It's pronounced Bondi. Bondi. Okay, let's get a little bit of solder here. Tidy this up. Okie dokie. Bondi. Whoopsie. Okay. And clean up the rest once it's on the board. Just need to get those bottom parts looking good so they can adhere to the board, and then, as I say, I'll clean up all the sides once it's on the board. It'll be easier to do that in situ. Alright, so I don't think I need to UV mask anything here because there's nothing in danger of getting touched that shouldn't be getting touched. I've lost my scalpel, by the way. Just in case anyone's wondering why I'm just staring into space. I can't find my scalpel. It can't be far because I haven't gone anywhere, and I was using it moments ago. And for Pete's sake. Hey there, kids. Today we're going to play Where's the Scalpel? Come on. Come on. Oh, wow, there's one of my heat shields. That's where it went. This is just stupid. It can't be far. I'm not wearing my UV mask right now. Oh, you don't disappoint. Oh, here it is. Right. So, time for chip to go back on. This is a PLCC chip. PLCC chips have pin 1 indicated by this little bump. So there it is, pin 1 right there. And then on the board, the screen printing has a little white dot indicating that that is where pin 1 goes. They also generally have these little cornery bits there. So you've got a sharp corner, rounded corner, sharp corner you can't see, sharp corner. So that's the way. We've got 2 different ways of checking to make sure that we got this around the right way. See, we've got our little rounded cornery here in the corner, in the corner there, right there, up there in the corner. Right. Okay, so when I'm putting a PLCC chip on, I generally get it into the best position that I can, and then I tack it down. I really should have put some flux on here first, but I didn't. Hope there's enough left on the board at least to just get this tack done. Did you tack? Are you tacked? Yeah, he's tacked. Right, so 1 tack in the corner, then I'll flip him around. I'll use a bit of flux this time and get a tack in the opposite corner. There we go. So we're tacked in 2 places. Now we can go in and start soldering on good and proper. Micro Mage Repair is here. Hello and thank you for joining. Oh, Mr. Super Chat. See ya. You know, thank you you're feeling very generous today, Garth. I do appreciate that. Supper time. Thank you very much. Thank you for watching for as long as you did. Enjoy your supper. I hope I haven't put you off your food with these rather revolting chip, but I'm sure supper will be yummy enough to take your mind off corroded PLCC chips. Chips. Now I'm hungry. So I discovered the most awesome thing yesterday. I meant to actually bring them down so I could eat them while I was doing the live stream. Well, my wife discovered them actually, not me. We have an ice cream in this country called a Golden Gay Time. And it is basically like a caramel flavoured ice cream with chocolate on it and then like little biscuit crumb on the outside. And or cookie crumb, I guess you guys would call it. And it is just one of the best ice creams you could ever possibly have. Golden Gay Time, look it up, made by Streets. And it is easily one of my favourite ice creams. And I just discovered, well, my wife discovered yesterday, that they make a Golden Gay Time flavoured popcorn. And I bought some yesterday, and crikey, it does taste like the ice cream. If you like the Golden Gay Time ice cream and you like sweet popcorn, I'm telling you, you've got to go and get these. It's amazing. Swallow some flux and stick it. How do you go another 5 minutes? She'll be good as new. So did I say hello to you, Jessica? I'm not sure I did. Hello, Jessica. Thank you for joining. I'm terribly rude sometimes. I don't mean to be. Oops. I just get carried away with stuff. And people jump onto the chat and then I miss them and don't say hello. Right, so we've got a certain level of cleanliness here. Now I need to get my tissues, which are all the way over here. A little bit difficult to reach. Might have to fix that up. I've got a mountain of boards here that is making it hard to access anything. And it's all related to the stuff that I've been doing with like repairing classics and stuff. So there's mountains and mountains of classic and classic 2 boards with varying levels of damage. And Justin, super chat. Thank you for your encouragement during my live streams. Oh, you're most welcome. And once again, I do apologise for leaving your live stream early, the last one. I had to go out somewhere. I can't remember. I had to go to the hardware or something. We're doing a little bit of home improvements here. And of course, one of the things that happens, this happens like with the Maciat guys as well, is they're all sort of happily streaming in their nighttime downtime, but at that time for me, it's like right in the middle of the day. So I'm often running around doing things. Okay, so just trying to get this clean enough so that I can put some UV mask in the danger zones. I went to the danger zone. Right. The board's got to be nice and clean before you put any UV mask on, so that's why I'm giving it a good wipe with the isopropyl alcohol. Then I get my paintbrush and I paint this stuff. This is UV curable. It's like a sort of a resiny type stuff that cures with UV, and it allows me to create little kind of insulated areas like this. See, when I put a capacitor down on that, because I put tantalum caps in place of electrolytics, their pads are a little bit wider, and so they can hang over the edge here and potentially, you know, sort of be overlapping one of these traces. And if one of those traces is exposed, I will then create an accidental short. And we don't want that, do we? No. I want tacos for dinner. I wonder if my wife will be on board with that. I'd love some tacos for dinner. Tacos, I love tacos. So when I put this on, I am going to cure it using a UV laser. Pew, pew. I've got another UV light on its way. It's apparently sort of one that will allow me to cure larger areas, and I'm potentially going to get an even more powerful one if this one works out. And what I'm getting is a 10 watt, and there is a 30 watt one you can get as well. That'll give you some 10, won't it? And so I'm just going to see how this 10 watt one goes. I bought one just recently. It was sold as a UV curing light. I get it. It's a friggin' disco light. I mean, it's not UV at all. It's blue and red. And so I contacted them and said, look, this isn't what you advertise it as. And so they just sent me a refund. Didn't even ask me to send the light back. So I might use it as a background for this live stream. Okay, so I think that's probably enough. I'm putting the stuff on pretty liberally here. Jay would probably say it's too much, but what does he know? Worth checking out his review of a UV light that he did recently. He purchased a UV light and tested it out and did a video of testing it out. I had a look at that video, and I'm glad he did review it, because I was about to buy that globe, and after seeing his review I decided not to get it. Not because the thing wasn't a good powerful UV light and that it didn't do what it said it did, but it was because it was one that was designed to have a time limit on it. So you switch it on, it stays on for like 20 seconds or something, and then it switches itself off. That's not what I want. I want something that I can sit here, leave running for like half an hour while I go up and make myself a tea or something, and then come back and find it all musked. I tried Taco Bell for the first time ever last week, and what did you think? Yeah, there's one near me. I've got a Taco Bell reasonably close. I've never ever bought anything from there, but we do have a Taco Bell nearby. What did you think of Taco Bell, Dana? I'm just curious to know, because I did try some a while ago and I thought it was disgusting. But I might have just ordered the wrong thing, and that was quite some time ago. Probably need to try again. Time to put the spawn to bed. So when Jay gets back after putting spawn to bed, I'll get him to put in the review of the UV light. Don't point laser at camera. Yes, that's a good tip. Taco Bell was fine. Oh, that's good. Because there's another Mexican place out here, a bit of a chain called, what's it called? I can't remember what it's called. And anyhow, I don't rate their stuff very much. I don't think it's very good. The Mexican I make at home, I think, is better than the stuff they sell. Del Taco is better. So we don't have Del Taco. Generally, the place where I go to get good Mexican here is actually a Mexican restaurant. It's called Dos Señoritas, and they make some of the nicest Mexican you're going to get here. It's not the same here in Australia. Mexican doesn't have the same sort of, you know, what's the word, kind of presence out here. There are Mexican restaurants and there are some Mexican chains, but it's nowhere near as prevalent as you'll find in the States. Another thing that always is, you know, when you talk about fast food chain, because I chat to my, you know, Macac friends about fast food chains over there all the time. You know, and so many of the fast food chains that are there, we don't have here. And we have, you know, some of the big ones, but, and for example, one of the things, you know, when I always hear people talk about getting food at Wendy's, see, we have Wendy's as a chain here, but it's not the same. The only hot food they serve are hot dogs. Everything else is just ice creams. They sell ice creams and nothing else. So Wendy's is an ice cream place that does hot dogs, and they don't do fast food like Wendy's does in the States. And of course, anyone who ever does come out here, if you're after Burger King, they're called Hungry Jacks here. Right, well, this is looking pretty dry. You can tell when it gets that sort of matte glazed over look about it, and I can sort of scrape it with a, oops, that's goo. Sorry, that's goo on my blade. Let me get that goo off. Goodbye, goo. So, you know, you can scrape it like this, it becomes like a solid sort of stuff. So that's the magic of the UV. I'm not going to put caps on that yet because I've still got a whole ton of these to clean. How am I doing for time? Oh my God, gotta hurry up. Crikey. We've got to get these little pins out. These are the pins sticking out for those axial capacitors that I had in place. And the way I do that is I just get a bit of solder on the end of my tip, and I kind of get that pin nice and warm, and that it then should start to be thinking about moving. This one's on the ground, so it absorbs a lot of the heat. It's a lot harder to get it hot. But anyhow, there it is. It's out now. Out now. Do the same with this one. Oh, that one's easy. Comes out. Skippy's Kangaroo Burgers. No, we don't have those. Yes, that's correct. Yeah, Wendy's is not like a eat-in restaurant. It is like an ice cream stand kind of thing almost. Yeah, a little kiosk type thing. Oh my God, that's disgusting. Sorry, I just read the comment about cooking hot dogs for 30 minutes to make soup. That's disgusting. It might be, some people might like it, but that is not something that I would be queuing up to do. This needs some flux. Okay. There we go. So now we have to get the solder out of the hole. The way I would typically do that is I would get a little bit of flux on there, I'd get a little bit of solder wick on there, and I would go like this and hope that it pulls the solder out, which it did. Doesn't always do it, but you know it's a good day when it does. See, this one's nearly there, nearly there. Come on. Because this is somewhere where a one of these solder needles can come in handy that we've recently discovered. So they come in a variety of thicknesses, so you find one that will fit through the hole. I think we'll either be looking at a 1mm or a 0.8mm for this one, but probably a 1. Not going to quite do it with a 1, so we're going to do it with a 0.8mm. So there we go. We've got a solder needle will fit through there. And what we can do is we can get a bit of solder heat. And get that like that. Get it nice and hot. And poke the needle through it like that. And then lift it out. And there's a hole. Whee! So if anyone is wondering how solder needles work, well, they're basically a little tube of stainless steel. And one thing that will not stick to stainless steel is solder. So you can kind of use them to make the solder push to one side. So in the instance of this one here, which I know is going to be a tricky one, because it's on the ground, I can get that nice and hot. And it's sucking all the heat away. So I didn't get all the way through. I didn't even get close to all the way through. Come on. You can do it. Come on. I'm here. Come on. Another thing you can do, in this instance, you can't see what I'm doing because my hand's in the way. I can hit it with the hot air station. Till it gets hot enough for me to poke it all the way through. Here she blows. There we go. And we're through. You can do it. I don't do that as well as Steve does. I'll leave the Arnie impersonation for Steve. This one here, we'll just go back to the original method of just sucking the solder out with our, what do you call that stuff? Wick, solder braid. But we're all ready to go, new caps in those. We've got holes in there. So there we go, new method, just added today, using solder needles for getting holes and things and stuff and things. Okay, I use this special iron tip. It's like 0.5mm and the machine on the other side. Interesting, yeah. So the needles, this is the first time I've ever used a needle for that purpose, but it worked quite well. Typically what I would do if I have a stubborn hole is I get a really, really big, hot soldering iron tip. One like this. Great big one. And then I put it face down with the heat going hardcore, and that melts the solder all the way through, and then it just sucks it out into the wick. Generally works. Works as is. Yeah, are those marketed as solder needles, or are you just using the normal needles you connect to a syringe? No, so these are actually sold as solder needles. Let me just bang this board around a little bit. Let me just show you quickly from top view here. This is the packet that I got, and as you can see it says solder needles. I have no idea what that says. And it just comes in a little packet like this of varying diameters. They're in the Google colors. So we've got a 1.2, 2.0, what? 1.8, 1.6, 1.4, 1.2, 1.0, and 0.8. Don't ask me, oh, okay, so this one's more of a point than a hollow. So this one's a point and all the rest are hollows. And they're stainless steel and they're hollow, and so you can put them in and you can actually go, because even if there's a pin in there, you can slot them down between the hole and the pin and push all the solder out of the way. It works quite well. And because it's stainless steel, it'll conduct heat, but solder won't ever stick to it. So GT is here. Hello, GT. Interesting that we are talking. If we are talking about needles, I do actually always keep a little hypodermic needle here filled with oil. It's a very, very refined oil. It's it's like sewing machine oil. So it's incredibly thin, refined lubricant that I use for lubricating into really tight places. So I just keep this here always loaded up with a bit of oil that I can then just squeeze into little tight spots. I use it when I'm doing like floppy revamps and stuff like that. So there you go. It does have a handy use. Just make sure you don't stab yourself with it, because I'm sure that intravenous sewing machine oil is not the best. Right, let's move up to cleaning. Well, let's clean this little pad down here while we're at it. He's just hovering here. This one's not too bad. I think he'll clean up quite quickly. He's sitting next to an oscillator, and this is not the real-time clock oscillator. This one is, I guess, the oscillator for probably the CPU and whatnot, the clock speed, the CPU clock speed, that is. The real-time clock oscillator is down near the battery on the board. Hydraulic trauma. Always costs me money to watch it. So let me guess, you're about to go and buy something else now. If there's any consolation, solder needles are really cheap. I mean, it's a few dollars for a set, so wouldn't worry about that. The truth is, I'm always open to, sort of new stuff that I can learn and find out things. And I mean, as I say, I got that one from that suggestion from Kai, which is great. I've had other tips and suggestions from people like, Jay from the House of Moth with the repair work that he does. He's often passed along some really good tips and tricks to me. It is not the real-time clock, this one. I don't know what frequency this one is, but it'll be something. It's probably what are we? It's a 16 megahertz CPU, so it's probably 32 would be my guess. Because aren't these clocks usually double the speed of the CPU? I don't know. That's they're the sort of questions we save up for Kai. 32.768 for the real-time clock. That's this guy, little guy down here. That's Y1. But Y3 will be the one that's setting the clock speed of the CPU, and maybe it is 32.768 as well, but I don't know. I just do not know. Right, 3 more to clean up, and I'm hoping that the damage isn't too bad here, because sometimes this area is... Oh, I'm not on the microscope again. Sometimes this area is a little bit on the nasty side. Good grief, as Charlie Brown would say. Cleaning, cleaning, cleaning. Wow, something came off. Something came off from somewhere. I think, oh, it's a pin. It's a pin from one of the what do you call those things? Capacitors that were there. So it was so badly corroded the pin stayed behind. And yeah, okay, that's fine. I don't mind pins coming off. 31. Okay, there we go. To get 15.6672 megahertz. There we go. That's the throbbing speed that you'll get from this SE30 when you use it. And what did one of these SE30s cost to buy new back in the day? I think out here they were about $8,000 or $8 or $9,000 or something, possibly more. That's in VAT money. They'd be worth even more today if you took inflation into account. I know that the company that I used to work for, the costs for a lot of these computers were so high, they were shipping a lot of these computers in from the States, because we were getting hit with the Australian tax out here, which happens a lot of the time. You end up having to pay a lot more for things out here than just the cost of exchange rate. And yes, so my boss at the time, he used to, not all, but he used to get, in particular around about the time, oh, there's another pin. No, actually that was the pin that was stuck to there before. And around the time of things like the 2CX, 2CI, SE30, around that sort of vintage, we're actually buying some of their computers from directly from the States and getting them shipped out. I'd love to have all the computers that the company used to have back then. Just had some great old Macs, and oh man, the new bus cards. Oh, the new bus cards. What I wouldn't give to have some of the new bus cards from back then. One of the ones that we had, and I think Steve even has one of these, one of the ones we had was a card that was a display card, so it allowed you to drive like, you know, quite a big CRT, big 21-inch CRT. But it also had built into it an accelerator that gave you acceleration for Photoshop. And thank you very much, Mike. Eat at Joe's, visit Mike's Mac Shack. Don't forget to visit Mike's Mac Shack. I have to say, of late, Mike has been doing, it hasn't even been on your Mac Shack channel, it's been a different channel, hasn't it, Mike? Did you want to post a link to the other channel? He's been doing these little live streams where he just plays old games, and we've got 3, I think, so far of Return of Castle Wolfenstein. And to be honest, I find myself absolutely mesmerised. I just sit there and I watch. I'm sitting there watching someone else play a vintage computer game, and I just watch it. I sit there and I watch it. And it's more entertaining than it sounds like it should be. So yeah, maybe chuck that second channel that you have in there, Mike, so that people can get the alerts, subscribe and get the alerts for when you're playing some of those games. It's called like Mike's Vintage House of Horrors or something. But thank you very much for the super chat. Oh, that's a big one. Crikey, look at that. He's thrown folding money at me. Folding money. Kind of like watching someone do rework. Yeah, kind of like that. I've always basically said with this sort of stuff, I mean, I used to watch other people do repair streams, and I'm sort of like, why am I watching this? But I still found myself watching it. Life's like that sometimes, isn't it? I mean, here's one. You know, I mean, it's like those movies. You know, those movies that everyone knows are bad, but you watch them anyway. You know. ASMR, it's relaxing. All right, okay. I've got a question for the chat here. Name a movie that everyone else seemed to love but you hated. There we go. That'll get some chat going. Not that there's any issue with the chat at the way it is at the moment. Everyone's busily chatting away. But I just like to drop these sorts of questions in every now and again. I like to watch movies, so. I tell you, I watched a movie the other day called Don't Look Up. Very, very scathing satire. Amazing cast, but I enjoyed it. I don't want anyone to think that I didn't enjoy it, because I did. But it was just such a scathing satire. Scathing of society in general. Okay, so this isn't looking too bad, I'm really happy to say. I might just put a little bit of UV mask here to be cautious. Is that the sort of person I am? Every superhero movie, okay, fair enough, fair enough. I'm not sure I can really argue with that too much. I know there are a few that I liked. I'll tell you one that I loved was the old Thor Ragnarok. That's sort of that Marvel one that just had humour in it that really kept me giggling. But I can understand that a lot of those, in particular with how many there are at the moment, some of them it's kind of hard to get enthused. Let's have a look. any remake of classic movies. Oh, come on, GT. You were telling me how much you enjoyed the Ghostbusters remake of 2016 with all the ladies. You told me you loved that movie. So how can you possibly say that? Lion King remake? Okay, fair enough. I haven't seen it. I've never seen the original, to be honest. Black Panther. You know, I would agree with you totally, Micro Major Repair. Sorry, it's Joshua, isn't it? I think. If I got your name wrong, I apologise. I found Black Panther very, 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 very silly. And the effects in the final fight scene are atrocious. But they knew they were going to be because they didn't allow enough time for them. So, you know, it comes down, you get what you get if you don't have much time to do good effects. Yeah, I found it kind of funny that they all speak in an accent rather than just speaking in their own language. I found it bizarre that in a country on a continent with such poverty, these people were just kind of living in the lap of luxury and not sharing it around. I thought that was kind of rude. I mean, I realised that was part of the movie, was we're going to be more open. So what do? They go and help out America rather than helping out their own continent. Maybe I'm just being too cynical. But I too found Black Panther pretty darn silly. I don't consider it even exists. Okay, so. Okay. Anything influence? Okay. Every live action Disney movie, Lion King, Mulan. Okay, never seen any of them. I know The Forbidden Planet. I've seen that. Princess Bride. Won't say I hated it, but really didn't get why people think it's really that funny. Yep, cool. Okay. I do enjoy Princess Bride, but I can totally understand why people wouldn't. I showed it to my wife once, and she was like, "I don't get it. I don't get it. What's the fuss?" The UV curing 6 LED light in action. I did actually mention that light before, Jay. I mentioned that it's a disco light. It's not a UV light, and that I got refunded for it. And I'll probably end up using it as maybe a light background here. But yeah, I have another UV light on its way, and it is a 10 watt one, and if it works out well, they have a 30 watt version of it as well, so I will probably try that. I mentioned your review on the UV light, so Jay, if you want to drop a link in for that if you haven't already, so that people can actually see what you thought of your UV light. And I mentioned that I didn't buy that light after seeing your review because there was one of the things about it that I didn't like. So it was very good to have got that review, because I was about to buy one. Yeah, remake of movies that were good before is just plain lazy Hollywood. I can't help but agree with that. Afterlife is a good sequel. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, so definitely Ghostbusters Afterlife is, I consider a sequel, not a remake. Whereas the Ghostbusters 2016 was a remake. It's actually quite refreshing when a new movie comes out that's not a sequel, it's a fresh idea, it's an original idea, the movie is good. It's nice when stuff like that happens. It doesn't happen that often anymore, but when it does, savour it. Total Recall remake is garbage. Nothing beats the Arnie original. Yeah, I mean the original Total Recall is terrible, but it has, I don't know, nostalgia value for me, and it has a few fun moments in it. It has things that, I enjoy the original Total Recall, but I can't really recommend it to anyone. because I don't consider it a good movie, but I still enjoy it. But the remake I've never actually seen. That was one with Colin someone. Green Mile, The Fifth Element, The Wraith, Charlie Sheen, Mary Poppins, Bedknobs and Broomsticks, Hackers. So what I would basically say with that, Green Mile, enjoyed it. Fifth Element, enjoyed it. The Wraith, enjoyed it, but that's nostalgia associated with that. That was the age that I was. Mary Poppins, yeah, not a big fan of that, to be honest. What was it, Bedknobs and Broomsticks? I saw that when it came out, but I don't remember it. And Hackers. Is that the one with... Oh, Hackers. I know that one. It's the one with... is it Robert Redford, I think? Is in that one, from memory? Of course he has Hackers on Laserdisc. Steve has everything on Laserdisc. Colin Farrell, that's the one. Yeah, so no, I'm afraid I did enjoy quite a few of those movies on that list there. So I haven't seen Hackers since it came out as well. So again, I don't know how well that would go in this day and age, but at the time, I remembered enjoying it. Sneakers. That was Sneakers. Okay, Sneakers, Robert Redford. So now I need to know what Hackers is. Who was in Hackers? Hackers? Who was in Hackers? I'm gonna have to look it up now. Going to the interwebs and looking for her Hackers IMDb. 1995. Oh, Angelina Jolie. Can't stand Angelina Jolie. No, I've never seen this one. Nope. I have never seen the film, so I cannot comment on it. So, there you go. But I generally steer clear of stuff that Angelina Jolie is in. Now, what have we got? We've only got, I think, 2 more to clean up, and then we can, 3 more to clean up, and they're not too bad. And then we can start putting new caps on, and might even be able to give this a test. There's a good chance this won't work, just letting everyone know. It's like the same caveat I gave last week. It's so dirty, it will need an ultrasonic clean. It's going to need to be ultrasonic to the max. So it is my intention to ultrasonic-y this afterwards, but who knows? We might get it working without it. I'd watch Bruce watch Hackers. I watched a movie about, I can't remember what it was called, but it was about Kevin Mitnick. For anyone who doesn't know who Kevin Mitnick is, he's a very famous computer hacker. He's written quite a few books on computer security since then. And there was a movie about his life. And I quite enjoyed that. Well, certainly about him getting imprisoned and stuff, because he ended up getting put in jail. And of course, it was at a time when there was a lot of computer ignorance going on, and so they were doing stupid things, like they wouldn't let him have a telephone. They wouldn't let him have telephone calls because they were worried he could hack a computer. I mean, he had no computer on him. He was just like, oh, this guy, oh yeah, he can't make telephone calls because he can hack computers. It's like, come on. But he talks about some of the most amazing tricks that he used to use, getting people to like cough up their passwords. So it's one thing to be hacking stuff where you're, doing, I don't know, a brute force attack where you're just guessing multiple passwords or something like that. But one of the methods he used to do is he would get people to tell him their password voluntarily, because he had all these amazing skills in sort of social networking where he would learn about companies and he would learn about their processes, and he would do it with multiple phone calls, and he would gradually just get more and more information about how a company would work, so that he could then make a phone call and people would just be certain that he was someone that worked for the company, because he knew people's names, he knew their roles, and it was just really a fascinating thing to hear about the stuff that he did, where, he was actually just doing stuff with, being charming on the phone and sounding knowledgeable and stuff like that. So, and as I say, he's written a few books, because he's become now a security expert to help people shore up their processes. Because it's all very well to have someone with a 50 character password. Okay, so no one's going to guess it, but people give up their passwords all the freaking time. I mean, I know, because I get sometimes people giving me their passwords without even asking for them. I've had times where people know me and they trust me or whatever, and I've sort of said, hey, can you send me your Google email address so I can add you to this document? And they send me their email address and their passwords. And it's like, yeah, no, I don't need that one. Just the email address is fine. Oh, Horst is here. Hello, Horst. Chatting about you earlier. Just talking about the old SE30 connection. Which we were talking about how SE30s, one of the very common signs of their needing recapping is that they have no sound. And I was mentioning that the SE30 that I got from you all those many, many years ago, that was the main symptom. It had no sound. And that's why I recapped it. Haven't been down for a bit. Oh, everything went to hell. I know that feeling. That's called life, man. I have to start moving this along, because I really do have some massive time constraints today. And I do want to get this tested, because when folks have been sitting here patiently watching all this time, I do like to be in a situation where we can at least fire this up. Even if it doesn't work, at least attempt to fire it up. The Art of Intrusion. I read was it The Art of Intrusion or his second book? I read one of his books, but I can't remember which one it was. Oh, geez, they're all clean. I've done them all. Hey, woo, woo, woo. Oops. Right, so that's all of the caps, all ready for new caps. The Art of Deception is the other one. I think that's the one I've got. Tempted to wander out, take my phone out to continue watching and recap one of those 2CI boards now. Well, no one would blame you. We all love to recap. Actually, we don't all love to recap. That's why I end up getting these to do. Just doing a little bit of cleaning up here. Just try and get all the excess. Just mainly the burnt flux I like to try and get off. I don't mind if there's a little bit of not burnt flux there. But... There we go. Okay, it is time to recap. That's enough out of you, Michael. With your double entendres. Okay, so okay, all right, here we go. Now we're going to get some new caps on here. I have a whole bunch of capacitors here that I prepared earlier. It's nice and easy with this one because there are only two types of cap on this one. There is one microfarad 50 volt, and all the rest are 47 microfarad 16 volt, a grand total of 10 of them. So we're going to get one microfarad 50 volt here, the little guy. Here's the little guy here. We'll pop him on first, because then we know every space that's left is all the same cap. Pop some Fluxaruni onto there. We've got a little screen printed plus on the board, so we know which way around this needs to go. Microscope, microscope, microscope. So we'll get this, and we've got a nice little stripe on the positive side, and so that's how we know which way around to put it. Ah, Sean is here. Sean, I watched your video. So Sean from Action Retro, feel free to stick a link into the video, Sean. I watched the video and Sean asked me to record a little cameo. And I thought, yeah, sure. So I recorded this little cameo and I sent it to him and he put it into the video. And he made that cameo even funnier than I was expecting. So do watch it if you get a chance, because it cracked me up. That was a very good laugh I had this morning watching that. Whoops. He makes Linux look easy. Yeah. He sure didn't make it look easy on your live stream, Steve. Okay, let's get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't need 11, 12, but I'm going to sing it anyway. 11, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Get the comments in the stream now. I love watching your streams, but just don't sing, please. And there we go. So, 3 little capacitors. Oh, that's not solder. Hello, Joe. Boy, we've got Joe overload in this live stream, don't we? No such thing as overload of Joes. Joes, lots of Joes. We like Joes. The more Joes, the better. Boy, this board's going to love a bit of a go in the ultrasonic. What was it? Hey, is Steve in the chat? What was it the C3PO said when he had that bath on Tatooine? Just after he came into possession, came into Luke Skywalker's possession. Oh, this oil bath is going to feel so good. Yes, well, that's what this SE30 is going to say. Oh, this ultrasonic is going to feel so good. Bum, 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 bum. So just keeping an eye on here. All right, 9 hours later. Yep. So anyone who hasn't actually seen that, yes, Steve has a 9-hour stream. Did you take a break during that, Steve? Did you have a bathroom break or a food? I know I saw you eating food during the live stream, but I came in about 4 or 5 hours in because you started streaming while I was still asleep. But that is a solid 9 hours. And the thing that was amazing about it, actually maybe it's rude for me to say that it was amazing, but the thing that amazed me was that he had like 90 odd viewers for most of the live stream. He got some absolutely obscene amount of viewer numbers by the end of that live stream. It was quite extraordinary. I guess there's a lot of Linuxy people out there. I tell you what, the thing I wonder about that live stream, how it would have turned out if Lauren hadn't arrived. Can you imagine? It probably would have been a 15-hour stream had that been the case. Either that, it would have involved some Steve tears. I've got that song in my head now, the Sesame Street one with the numbers and the pinball machine. Whoops. There we go. Look at this. This is coming along well. This is coming along well. Right, so we're coming along here. We've only got, I think, 4 more caps to go, something like that. We'll pop this one down here, yes sirree, yes sirree. And then we'll try this out and we will hope for the best. I think, I'm just trying to think where the nearest SE/SE30 shell is. I've got one upstairs. I think there's one in the other shed, so I will go grab that one if I can reach it. Oh, fair enough, Kai. Thank you very much for joining. Have a good sleep. I do appreciate you turning up at these streams at such an ungodly hour for you. So again, thank you very much for joining, and see you anon. Most probably in the Tinker Different Discord or stuff like that. Chat to Kai quite regularly there. Lou said you're welcome. Say hello to Lou for me, please. And I accept no blame. I accept no blame for keeping you up late. JJ Brubaker is here. Hello and welcome. JJ Brubaker, one of the regulars here. I always remember that because that's what my cousin calls me, Brubaker. I haven't had a whole lot of nicknames throughout my life. Needless to say, Batman is one of them. Geez, I really should have put some mask on that, shouldn't I? Look at how exposed that is. We'll put this one over here and we'll clean that one up. Got to do a proper job. Yes, sir. Bit of a waste of flux, but better to get it right. So, sorry, Max, if you're still in the chat, I know I asked you this, but I didn't see the answer, and it's probably too far up for me to scroll and look at now. Have you ever powered this one up? I'm going to stay here, I'm going to watch, I'm going to look, I'm going to see, and hopefully I don't get distracted and forget to see the answer. That does happen to me sometimes. I ask questions, then I get distracted, and then I go, oh, I asked that question, I never even looked at the answer. A UX3 or not. Now I'm going to see with something. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Okay, it hasn't powered it up, so that's cool. No worries. I mean, it's a smart move. Just given the state of this one, I wouldn't have fired it up either, and didn't. But I was just curious because there are regularly times when people get hold of computers and they fire them up, despite what I might recommend. Just realised this trace here could do with a little bit of TLC. So we're going to give it the works. And then we'll have to clean it again. And again. Where's other Dana? We've got the local Australian Dana here, but we don't have the Dana Does Stuff Dana here. What's all that about? Don't know if there are any long strips of 68K Max. I think there is. I think there is some version of Linux that will work right the way back to, I think, a 68020. I think you can get some flavour of Linux running on a 68020. I think. But don't quote me on that, because I tend to lie a lot. I hate to think how they'd run. I mean, it's not like you're going to be, you know, getting Firefox going on them. I mean, when you look at modern day computing and then you compare it to sort of like vintage computing, as someone who has been through this, because I'm an old fart, and there are other people out there that are also old farts and they know this as well, something as simple as opening a JPEG file used to make computers come to an absolute crawl. So you have this awesome format, JPEG, that allows you to save a lot of space, because obviously storage space was a huge issue back then as well, because hard drives were so friggin' expensive. And you would go to open a JPEG file and you would just sit there waiting and waiting and waiting for the JPEG to open. And when you consider that when you browse a web page, it might be decompressing 20, 30, 40 JPEGs instantly, just as that page opens. It's, sort of, internet's not ideal for old computers. Going to start playing around with 68K BSD and see how it goes. Ooh. I'm reading the chat and I'm pointing elsewhere. Oopsie. All right, I'm going to look at this now so I can actually get this done, because when I stare at the chat, the laser beam misses. And see, this is why I want to get this light where I can just shine it and just leave it, rather than having to point directly at what I want to dry. I've got a few little diodes up here. I don't know if you can see them. There we go, D1 and D2. So these are the little diodes, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're the diodes that are designed to make sure that your real-time clock gets power from the battery when the computer is off, but gets power from the mains when the computer is on, so as not to drain the battery while the computer's on. So that, I believe, is the purpose of these diodes here, because right there is the real-time clock, and right there is the real-time clock oscillator. So, and then, yeah, those little diodes there make sure that the real-time clock is powered from the appropriate power source. And for anyone who's not sure what a diode does, it restricts flow of electricity in only one direction. They also prevent damage if you put the battery in the wrong way. Yes, that's of course one of probably the most important, one of the most basic roles of a diode. And yes, you would be right with that, I'm sure, as well. That you need some protection in there if someone does put the battery around the wrong way. Because despite what used to always happen in Doctor Who, reversing the polarity doesn't fix everything. It worked for Doctor Who all the time. He'd be sitting there sort of, and the Sontarans are attacking the planet, and he'd go, now if we get this and we reverse the polarity. I'm doing a John Pertwee there, by the way, if you're wondering which Doctor Who I'm doing. That's the one I was doing. Not very well, but that's the one I was doing. I had to tell you that because you'd never figure it out on your own. And he would reverse the polarity, and then bang, those Sontarans, they're in trouble now. Or Silurians. Okay. Work for Captain Kirk as well. Yes, the old Star Trek, of course. All right, so how are we doing? Oh, we're over 2 o'clock, so I'm running over time. One more cap, put down, then we go for a test. And then we will wrap things up until probably next week. I do have lots of other content that I'm working on at the moment. I've got an ultrasonic cleaner video. I've got Beginner's Guide to Soldering Part 3. I've got a Kaiweets multimeter giveaway coming up. What else? I'm doing a little quick guide video on scanning, as in scanning images on the computer. It's a bit of a departure from my normal stuff, but once again, it's all just about sharing knowledge. There are some tips that I want to share around, so that's coming. So lots of interesting stuff. You realise that I haven't put the axial caps on. I'm gonna have to do that. Told you I was streaming next. So Steve already streamed today, so I think we probably have to excuse him from doing another one. I wake up in the morning, I grab my iPad, I look over and I see, Mac 84's streaming, and it's like, streaming while I'm asleep, can't see. Okay, axial caps. What we need here are, far out. Did I keep the caps? So I don't have to look up my guide. One of them is a 220 microfarad 16, and the other one is here it is a 470 microfarad 16. I will be putting most probably 25 volt replacements in, just because I have lots of them. You can go up in voltage, but don't go down, and you must use the same capacitance value. And you shouldn't necessarily go up in voltage too much, because that can impact on the ESD, or extra specially resistance. Equivalent series resistance. There we go. A couple of caps there. ESR. ESR. Equivalent series resistance. Extra specially resistant. Right. Whoopsie. So, got some caps here. Did I say ESD? I meant ESR if I said ESD. I just have this vague feeling like I said ESD. Right, so I've got a little thingy here to help bend the pins of these nice and evenly and easily. And then this one is, what size? No. Which one is it? No. I think that's it. So I'll put that there. Bend the pins. SP. Right, here we go. Got to put these caps on because we've got to get this done. Running out of time. If you're wondering why I'm running out of time, it's because I'm going to do some painting work, as in home renos. Oh, I got it wrong. And I want to be able to help with that painting. You know. Can't leave all that work to my wife. Have to use the correct charger or it would damage the computer. Yeah, so it's trying to get that understanding across that the computer will only take the power that it requires and just leave behind anything it doesn't. And you're not, if you put a higher wattage or higher amperage charger on there, you're not going to damage the computer. Yes, that's one thing that if you go into any electronics store and there's someone there, you know, sort of buying a power supply, it's the sort of thing you're likely to hear on any given day when you go in there. Try and get these pins looking fairly nice when I bend them. Oh, fudgeroni, look what I did. I actually broke my own rules. Can't be having that. I always make it so that I can see the writing of the cap when I put it in. Make it easier for the next person when they're trying to work out what it should be replaced with. They can just see it without having to remove the component. There's so many people when they put these caps on, they make it really hard to read. So with this one here, with the axial cap, I want to be kind and generous and make their life easier. Okay, pins go through. That's one cap. Two caps. Okay. I've lost a pad. Oh no, Horst. No. You'll be pleased to know I have a video on how to repair that. It's another video that I'm actually planning as well as fixing soldering mistakes. It's something that I've had in store for a while. It was actually Jay's idea, Jay from the House of Moth, one of his many great ideas that I steal from him. And he said, oh, you know, you should do a guide for, you know, mistakes that people make when they're soldering and how to fix them. I was like, yeah, that's a bloody good idea, sir. And then the other day, one of my soldering videos, someone actually wrote that in the chat. They said, could you please do a video on fixing soldering mistakes? And I thought, yep, I've already got that on my to-do list. Right, so quick little check over of the work. So we'll just change to the top view of this before we go in and do a test and see if this is actually going to work. So we have got 3 caps here and they are all 47 microfarad 16 volt and they're all pointing with the positive that way. that way. Then we've got these ones. These are all positive to the left as well. We've got 3 47/16s here and one microfarad 50 volt there. We've got one little 47/16 here with a positive pointing to the left. That's got the negative pointing that way, positive that way, negative pointing that way, positive that way. 47. I just realised every single cap has a positive pointing to the left. Doesn't that make life easy? I've only done like 50 of these and never noticed that before. Okay, well that's it. That's enough for me to test. So we're going to test this now. Max, you're standing by. Let's put that on there so I don't lose it. Be interesting to see if this RAM works, because sometimes people put RAM in these things and it's not the right sort of RAM. But we'll hope. In goes our ROM. Then we've got, looks like 1 meg here. One of the joys these days when you have these computers is that you can actually buy 16 megabyte SIMs these days for not too much money. And ramping these old Macs up to 16, or up to 64 or potentially up to 128 is just awesome. And the reason why I enjoy doing it so much is because you just simply could not do that in the day. The costs were way, way too prohibitive. You just, I mean, there's no way, no one would do it. Closest I ever got to it was in a Quadra 950, and of course that was quite a bit later than this. I remember one of the companies that I did work for, they actually upgraded their Quadra 950 to a full 256 megabytes of RAM, because the Quadra 950 has 8 slots in it. 16 slots in it. Good, he's watching. Okay, so sometimes these SIMs that only have 2 chips on them, sometimes these Macs don't like them, but we will soon find out. Now, once again, setting expectations for everyone, there's a very, very high likelihood that this will not work because it is so dirty. And so if it doesn't work, the next thing I'll do is pop it in the ultrasonic cleaner, and then as I did with the LC board, after it's cleaned, I'll test it out, and then I'll post the results of that on my Facebook page. That may not be until tomorrow, depending on what's happening, but yeah. So, all right, so we've got it. I'm going to go get the case, because I can't test it without the case. So everyone just sit tight, talk to yourselves. I can actually talk to you while I go get this thing, but I can't read the chat. So you can just listen to me blather on about all sorts of ridiculous things like, I don't know, it's a nice day today. The sun's out for the first time in ages. That's kind of nice. Haven't had that in a while. I can also talk about how I've made it very, very difficult for me to actually get this computer. I'm going to have to move some things out of the way in order for me to get it. That can move. Oh, actually, it's good to know where this is. This is, that's good. We're going to need that tomorrow. Yep, that's good. Okay, glad I found that. I'm going to move to that. And I'm going to drag this case out of here. Try not to break anything. Ooh, there we go. All right. So, here comes my SE30 case. And here it is. Oh boy, that took it out of me. Having to stand up and walk around like that. Enzo Fitzhume, hello there. Have you considered building a time machine? Every day. Okay, so I'm going to go to, this isn't the best view for this, I appreciate. We'll probably go to the front view just for now. And I'll move the camera down so you can see the screen. So here is my SE30. Where's my extender? Have I stolen it and used it for something else? Oh, I bet you I know where it is. I bet you it's up in the house. Maybe there's one down here. Just bear with me a second. Bear with. Bear with. Yes, 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 yes. No. Yes, 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 yes. No. Darn. All right, we're going to do it without the extender. We'll do it without the extender. Just put the board in like the old-fashioned days. So, I'm going to lay this on its face. I am going to slot the board in. Now, normally I test it with the board outside, and I run an extender to the little thing here, but I've got 2 extenders. I know where one of them is, and the other one is in a computer here somewhere. So let's pop this in. We will want our little speaker for a bit of sound. Pop that there. And pop that there. Actually, I wonder if I can feed that through there now. These are always a bit fiddly. You've got to be super careful with these things because it's really easy to break the little glass nipple that's holding the vacuum on the CRT, and we do not want to break that. Yep. Come on. There we go. Plugged in. So that gives us our power connector and it gives us our speaker. So we should be able to hear if it makes any noise and we should be able to see if it makes any picture. I won't bother connecting the hard drive up to as yet. And we'll just direction this down a little bit so you can see the screen. So we don't know what to expect from this. There's a good chance it won't work. So just set your expectations accordingly, but we'll give it a try. We'll give it a red hot go. So I'm going to plug this in, make sure that everything's connected because sometimes I unplug these things, but I usually put them back. Okay, yep, it's all connected. All right, okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. That, my friends, was the sound of a chime. And the sound of a chime is usually an indication, ooh, look at that, we've got a cursor and everything. Where is it? This one. This one. There's a cursor and everything there. Sorry about the flicker. And incidentally, the geometry of this is way bigger than it should be. That's kind of how I like to have it. I know it's wrong. I know it's not WYSIWYG, but it's mine. So I can have it any way I want. So it chimed. The next thing we're likely to see is a flashing question mark. And it'll do that after it's done the memory test, of course, which is what it's doing now. And then any minute, there we go, there's our flashing question mark. All right, well, let's shut him down. Let's connect the hard drive. We'll get him booting into operating system and then we will wrap up for today. So, I will, of course, need to test the serial ports on this thing because they weren't too good. Not too good. But I'll tell you what, considering how bad this one was, that is a really, really good outcome. So I'm extremely pleased with that, and I hope Max is also pleased. Wow, impressive. There we go. Max is pleased. It's good because I haven't sent him the bill yet. Okay, another nice big loud chime. It's always good. Any good guides on changing to LCD on Mac SE? It's an interesting thing because there's some interesting stuff happening at the moment with, I think, people making adapters that allow you to get some sort of generic video output from the main board and then therefore go to LCD. But I think some of that is, it's still in its infancy. So, all right, I think this is almost definitely 7.1. That's the operating system I like to run on an SE30. I think it's a nice balance between features and speed. And then I also install Open Transport if I have a network adapter, which will allow me to then download files from FTPs and stuff like that. So we have got, is that 8? Yep. So we've got 4 ones in there. We've got 8 megs of RAM. System 7.1, all working beautifully. Isn't that a joyous occasion? So, all that remains is the board needs a good clean, it needs a little bit of testing, but we're all looking pretty darn good there. So I will now bring this camera back up so you can see my pretty face, and I will sign off and say goodbye to everyone. So as per usual, one of the things that I always say when I'm finishing off a stream is I say thank you all very much for being here. Thank you very much for keeping me company. I've still got like 46 people here at the moment, so I do apologise for finishing, but better off leaving wanting than hanging around till you get bored. A reminder to everyone, please don't forget to
smash that like
button. If you haven't already. So thank you very much. So yes, thank you everyone for your participation in the chat. Thank you very much for the super chats, particularly the Garth, because he just went crazy with them today. And of course Mike and others as well who also super chatted. So thank you all very much for that. Thanks for the company. Thanks. Have a great time. Have a great night, day, whatever it is in your part of the world. And I will see you at the next stream. So, bye.